All right. Welcome, everybody. I just want to start off by saying that I hope all of you are well and staying safe and taking all of the necessary precautions. I don't know about everybody out there, but I'm personally going for a new world record for myself every day in terms of washing my hands. It's, it's pretty crazy. Facility Grid is hosting a webinar series. We started this last week. We'll be continuing it for another 2 weeks. So welcome to managing commissioning and QC activities and workflows by tailoring Facility Grid to the requirements of new and existing building projects. Thank you all for attending. We greatly appreciate it. This is the lineup. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the next several weeks, we'll be holding industry-wide webinars that will improve, enhance your productivity in working with your projects. What we're also doing for our customers is on every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're having deep dive training into every aspect of Facility Grid. If you're interested in participating in those, contact Greg, whose email address is at the bottom of the screen, greg@facilitygrid.com. If you email him, he will send you invites. Typically, these are for customers only. They're deep dives into Facility Grid. We're opening that up to really anyone that wants to learn. All of these webinars start at 2 p.m. They are 45 minutes long. Please ask questions, as they come up, as they arise. We will more than likely answer them at the end of the webinar. The webinars are 45 minutes. However, given today's circumstances, we will extend them if necessary. If there are a lot of questions, we'll stay on until everybody's questions are answered. If you need us to deep dive into a specific area of the program, we're willing to do that as well. So very informal. Let us know what you need, and we'll stay on and make sure we answer your questions or concerns. So I'm going to hand it over to Greg Caravello. Greg is SVP of Sales. He's going to take you through a short PowerPoint presentation and then hand it over to Alex Kozinets, who many of you know. Alex has been working extremely hard in putting together these webinars and the content, as well as presenting on them. Alex is our Chief Product Officer. So again, thank you very much. Greg, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for your time today. Before we get started, just want to go through a little housekeeping with us. First is you're in a listen mode only, so we can't hear you. If you have any questions during the webinar, please ask them by using the GoToWebinar question widget, and we'll answer as many as we can. So let me just get started. Little background. How our customers use Facility Grid. And what's important here is that you can manage any activity using Facility Grid. So from our commissioning partners, they can use Facility Grid, building checklists, tests, etc. And new construction, also existing building construction is very important. You can use Facility Grid in existing building construction, and then also in ongoing commissioning when you're setting up different processes that you go back and forth every so often to check out the ongoing commissioning, make sure everything is up to speed, and everything else that you do in that situation. Also, in the quality control aspect, anything like factory acceptance testing, static testing, controls contractors use it for setting up any activities that they can customize that fits exactly what they're doing, from static testing to equipment startup, things of that nature. So we probably see that sometimes we get to the site and we were told everything is completed and pretty much nothing's completed. When you set facility grid up with a process or a set of procedures, this is not going to happen because all of these steps are going to be completed and signed off on before you get to the site. So, you know, just saving time and just saving just valuable setup time is just worth using facility grid. And of course, in construction, the design team gets out there building punch lists and also owner manuals and training and turnover. You can set up steps, procedures, processes, and facility grid is perfect in all of those environments. And facility grid is configurable. So any environment that you set us up in, because we say we're a task-based system, whatever task you have, we can run it. Here's some of our customers. This is a list of our customer base. Now, our customers are the full range from customers who are starting up in having one or two small projects, and as they grow, so does their range of acceptance and things that they can do with the tool, all the way up to very, very large projects such as LaGuardia Gateway. The entire airport project is under facility grid. And the way we deliver value, reduce overhead tremendously just in setting up accountability through proper testing, through proper procedures development, improving the workflow, product quality, proactively managing the projects and pipeline, knowing exactly what status everything is in is very important. Standardized in processes and reports and deliverables, bringing different groups in, bringing different contractors, subcontractors, different trades in. You can work through the process using facility grid and always know where the project is. Training, support, technology, we have you covered. Training, we always have a comprehensive set of library and on-demand sessions, live scheduled customer training sessions. And when somebody comes on board with us, we really take a great level and interest in making sure that when you start off with us, you can start off running. We always like to start off with a live project, and you can get right out into the field with that. So as today, we have the training sessions are being recorded, and we also have the live customer training sessions, and you'll hopefully you'll be able to see some of those also. Support, online help, training resources are available 24/7. Email support, we're staffed 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I think what you'll find is that most of what you need to see, you can see it on our training sessions, either our on-demand sessions or on the Facility Grid YouTube channel. Technology, 100% web-based, available on any web-enabled device, including iPhones, Androids, etc. And we're secured hosting, redundant hosting, and backup. We've got all of those security processes in place, and it's something that is important because we have a lot of customers that really demand that high level of service. So what Facility Grid does, we can follow the commissioning process or whatever process from beginning to end. It's easy to set up a project. You'll be able to import existing checklists and tests that might be in an Excel format. And once you get into Facility Grid, there's utilities that can populate several pieces of equipment that maybe you might have 100 of these or 200 of these, and we'll be able to populate that quickly. And initiate and track progress. You'll see how you'll bring in different different users into Facility Grid, you set their permissions, and you can track exactly what's going on all the time on our dashboard. That'll give you an accurate real-time view of what's going on. So as you produce issue statuses, notifications, reports, photographs of outstanding issues, this whole process just keeps moving through. And as I said, with our dashboard, you'll be able to see again each project that you'll have. You'll see the exact status, and you can drill down and get reports. You can uncover areas that need immediate attention. We also utilize complementary technologies such as PDF markup tools like a Bluebeam or an iAnnotate. So if you're using those tools in the field, you can make changes to the drawing and they'll automatically be reflected in Facility Grid. We provide efficiency to all stakeholders, our custom reports, the final report, a systems manual, data asset reports. In the end, these are areas that, or these are reports that take a long time to assemble. They're very simple, and a lot of it is fully automated through Facility Grid. And lifecycle management through COBE. Anybody who's familiar with COBE or incorporating information into any CMMS type program or back through to the model. And today we have thousands of projects active today out there in the field worldwide. Another feature of the tool is that we have Facility Grid is native apps to all the iOS, Android, and Microsoft devices. You can use these downloading a project. You can use these without any kind of internet access. And this is a lot of our customers use this because a lot of places where you're putting up a building, there is no internet access. And later on, it gets downloaded to the project for everyone else to see. So just in conclusion, Facility Grid offers significant overhead reduction through a lot of different areas. One of the most is eliminating visiting sites that are unprepared for testing. Significant improvement in work productivity. Spend on high value testing, and win more business with your customers. Provide clients with a tool that works hand in hand with BIM, for example. I'm going to stop here and just thank you all again for coming today. And I'm going to turn it over to Alex for the presentation. And again, you can contact me, Greg, at facilitygrid.com. I'll be happy to provide any new information that you'd like. And again, thank you again for your time. And Alex, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Hello to everyone. Greg, that was a great overview of Facility Grid. Again, thank you. And what I did actually, I went back to one of your slides, and because this fits specifically into our today's webinar. Okay, this slide that Greg went over was on our task-based process, and I just want to start by kind of underlining this this principle, this process. And so the Facility Grid is a task-based software, and our that functionality means that we allow our clients to tailor Facility Grid to whatever workflow they use and whatever activities they use to document in Facility Grid. Okay, so basically you can fully customize Facility Grid to any project size, any project scope, any responsibility over project participants without putting any requirements or limitations on your process. Okay, the software is built such that it enables you to do things instead of putting some requirements on you that you have to adapt your process or your project to the software. It actually works the other way. And like Greg has mentioned, we really provide solutions for any project participant, whatever your role in the project is, whether it's you CXP and you're performing one of these activities, new building commissioning, existing building commissioning. Again, the quality control and that kind of falls onto can fall under CXP, but can also fall on various contractors or maybe third-party testing agencies conducting these activities, like, for example, pressure testing or torque testing, or any other type of tests. In addition to that, also you can use Facility Grid to document your construction administration activities. So you can have a GC use Facility Grid to document punch lists. The nice thing that the feature for that available to you when you do that in Facility Grid is that we, as you guys know, or most of you know, some of you know, we allow linking equipment to those activities. So when you document like a startup or document or do a punch list or any other type of information you document, you can always link it to an asset, and then therefore it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is always tied to something, which means you can easily find it and you can easily understand what it refers to. And then also O&M and training activities, right? So basically you want to manage all your recordings of trainings of O&M personnel. You want to manage your any turnover documents, maybe equipment startup reports, maybe equipment submittals, whatever. Everything can be managed in the software. And so I just kind of wanted to set the foundation of what I'm going to be talking today and actually demonstrating you. But I just want to make sure that you understand what that task-based process is. I'm going to exit this presentation and I'll go back to Facility Grid. But before I actually start going over the task-based process and how you manage activities, what I want to show is a typical RFP for commissioning services. Okay, and as you know, that typically RFP would state all the activities and responsibilities for commissioning provider, right? It'll state, and again, this is just an example. Obviously every RFP looks differently, but typically it would state, what type of process is expected to be followed on the project. So in this case, this is a lead enhanced services, fundamental enhanced services, lead version 4. And then the RFP would typically list at least activities per project phase, right? So basically it'll say, okay, so in the design phase, the first activity would be to develop a commissioning plan, then to review owner project requirements based on design documents, produce a commissioning schedule, perform design reviews, and it'll list, for example, that you need maybe 3 design reviews to be performed, right, during schematic design and maybe twice during the construction documents process. And then it'll say, okay, so then now you have to produce commissioning spec, maybe just one general section, or in addition, maybe produce sections for each commissioning section for each trade. And then if there are any meetings required for design phase, it'll say, okay, so for example, in this case, it's a post-bid award meeting. And then we'll go into the construction phase and it'll say, so update the commissioning plan, conduct so many meetings during construction phase of the project, and so on and so forth. And basically, the RFP would outline every activity that the commissioning provider is expected to perform. And a lot of times when the commissioning provider will develop their proposal, they'll typically include these activities so that to make sure that everybody on the same page, everybody understands what everyone's responsibility is. Well, so these items that I'm going over, and that in this case I highlighted in yellow. So what are these items? So this is, again, this is the scope of work items. And in facility grid, these are your tasks, or these are your activities, right? And so when we talk about facility grid being a task-based software, it means that you can take this particular RFP, this particular scope of work, or any other scope of work, and you can model facility grid specific to these requirements, these activities. Okay, so I am now going to switch to facility grid, and I'll start by saying that on the high level, there are typically two types of commissioning process: existing building commissioning and new building commissioning. Okay, so when someone creates a project in facility grid, the first thing that is being specified when you create a new project is whether it is existing building commissioning or new building commissioning. What does facility grid with this do with this information? So facility grid sets up your projects specific to the type of project you've selected. So in this case, you can see this is a new building commissioning project, and it is broken in three phases: design, construction, occupancy. So we actually go a step further, and we work with our clients who say, well, we don't want to use the three-phase process. Maybe we want to use a five-phase process during new building commissioning. So maybe we want to use pre-design, design, construction, and acceptance and occupancy, or post-occupancy. And so again, we can even configure your projects on that level, specific to how you manage your projects, specifically how, if you got involved in a project in pre-design phase, that's perfect. That's actually where all projects should get started in commissioning, in the best case scenario. But so we can configure that setup for you using those 5 different phases. Okay, and as an example, I'll show you what that configuration would look like if you were to manage an existing building commissioning project. I'll give you a quick overview of that. So I'm going to this project. It's a library building, and this library building is undergoing existing building commissioning activities, and you can see that the project is set up based on 5 typical phases of existing building commissioning process. You can see we're starting with the planning phase, then going to the investigation phase, then implementation, turnover, and then persistence. Okay, so this is an outline of your scope of work, and this is where you would start. This is a starting point. So if you were to say that I'm working on a new existing building commissioning project, okay, and you open that project, facility grid will line up your activities. And now you can get as creative as you want. So now you can take any of these activities, you can delete them if they're not part of your scope. If part of your scope includes some activities that are not documented in the default setup, right? You can add any of those activities, and as you perform your process, you conduct those activities, facility grid is going to not just be a placeholder for just storing documents, but what it will serve as a tool to manage the status of those activities, right? Because we report on every activity that take place in facility grid. At any point of time, you can come to the software And any project participant can come to the software and will know exactly where they stand on certain activities and certain process. Just FYI, when you perform existing building commissioning activities, and we had one of the questions before the webinar, we had a questionnaire what they would like to learn in facility grid. One of the questions was how you do existing building commissioning in facility grid. And as we're on this topic, I can just say that in addition to allow you to perform your typical commissioning activities that would also be applicable to a new building commissioning process like checklists and functional tests and stuff and so on and so forth, documenting assets and other activities. When you perform existing building commissioning in facility grid, you can document energy conservation measures, and we have specific tools for you to specific templates for you to document those measures. And also, in addition to that, you can also document facility improvement measures. Okay, and again, we have a specific templates that allow you documenting those types of activities or those types of findings in facility grid. And therefore, if they document it, then obviously then they can be reported and managed through the process. I'm not going to go back to the new building commissioning project, and now we'll look at how you use that information from the RFP to set up your project to line up with those activities. So when you start a project, like I said, you're going to specify whether it's new or existing building commissioning process. And let's say on this particular project, it is a new building commissioning project. And now I'm going to, at the beginning of this project, as I put it together in facility grid, I'm going to open my RFP or scope of work document, and I'm going to structure my project or tailor it specific to that scope of work. I'm going to say that, okay, so one of my first requirement is to develop commissioning plan. Okay, so this is an activity, right? The second activity is to develop the own or review owner project requirements. Great. And every activity that I have, right, this is going to be a task in facility grid. Okay. Now I can have several activities related to one task. For example, design document review. So I may have 3 activities for that design review. Each activity will be documented as a subtask. Okay. Now, as I build the structure in the software, right, I am not performing any activities yet, right? Again, I'm just in this project setup mode. So all I'm doing is I'm building these placeholders. Okay. When I build these placeholders, and as I've done it at the project setup phase, so now I can come to any project. You know, if I'm the one who is actually managing this project or running this project, then I know, or I should know, that how many design reviews I'm supposed to be conducting. But if I am in a managerial role, or maybe if I'm a building owner and I need to understand, okay, how many design reviews am I owed? Or if I'm a design professional and I need to know, okay, how many design reviews is the commissioning company going to get involved in, so they will be providing comments for me, because all this information is available to anyone who you invite to the project. There is no longer there's any questions. There's transparency into everything. Okay. Where do you keep meetings, for example? Right? So meetings can be one of those tasks. So for example, in the design phase, if you are only required to participate in this one meeting, go ahead and create a placeholder for it. Okay. Again, we outlining our tasks based on the scope of work. Now, what do you get? What additional benefits do you get from a task-based setup? Why do we want to do it? Well, first of all, do you have to do it? The simple answer is no. So you may be working on a small new building commissioning project. Maybe you are performing lead fundamental activities, and your task, your scope of work is just simply, create a few checklists, run through some tests, and maybe attend a couple of meetings, maybe go to the site a couple of times. Do you have to, set up, these elaborate tasks and manage everything in one place? Not really. You don't have to do that. You can create checklists, add a couple of pieces of equipment, maybe add a few issues into the issues log, and then pull all those things together at the end and put a report. Okay. So again, the simple answer is you do not have to, and that's when I say about that the software, that it enables you to do whatever you need to do on your project without putting any restrictions. So there is no restrictions on your requirements put on you by the software that tells you you must do this. There's no such a thing. Okay. But if you do choose to utilize the task-based process and manage all the activities in one place, now you have tons of possibilities opening up for you. So as I mentioned already, knowing at any point of time where your activity is at, also knowing how many activities you are required to perform. For example, if I switch to the construction phase of the project, and we will look at the meetings, right? We saw from that RFP that I am required to conduct 26 meetings. Do you think by the meeting number 23, do I remember? Maybe I do, but maybe not. Maybe it's 126 meetings. And do I remember that I've already conducted 25 and I still owe, 4 more? Maybe, maybe not. This is a great placeholder for all those for those meetings. So I can document meeting notes directly in the software. And if I open a meetings note section, you can see how I can document the purpose of the meeting. I take notes. I can document recommendations, specify who participate in the meeting. I can create issues related to the meeting, whatever was uncovered in the meeting. But I can also simply, if I don't want to document notes directly in the software, and if I want to use my company specific template for meeting notes, I can do that in Word, for example, and then PDF it and attach it to this task. But the benefit of having it in a software is to be able to look at those activities, like I said, at any point of time, and know the status, right? So if I'm looking at this, let's say I don't know anything about the project. I'm, project manager. Have 100 projects that I'm overseeing, and I need to get into this project and figure out, okay, where am I at? Like how I'm doing financially on the project. So I can come here and say, well, I know exactly where we are. Out of 26 meetings, we conducted 1. Okay, so you still have 25 left. Now, in addition to that, these don't have to be just the commissioning meetings. If you're conducting for example, controls integration meeting, or maybe pre-TAP conference, that could cover as your meetings. So again, having everything in one place and having these here as placeholders from the beginning will allow you to easily understand where you are with that. A similar example can be used for site visits. Okay, again, a lot of times you project, when you put it together a proposal, you project how many site visits you plan to conduct. So when you say you owe, let's say you start with first monthly visits, then weekly, bi-weekly, then weekly, and so on and so forth, then daily, and then you project how many of those you plan on conduct. Okay, again, you can structure your activities specific to your plan. Okay, so if you plan on conducting monthly visits, great. Maybe the first month it's mechanical, second month it's electrical, and then, or maybe they come together. then let's say your client asks you, let's say it's a lab building project, and your client asks you, well, we want you to oversee fume hood testing, for example. Okay, that may not be your typical commissioning activity, but this is something that you are overseeing, you've been asked to oversee. Great. So one of your tasks here under the site visits can be lab hood testing, or for example, smoke control testing, or whatever. The nice thing about this task-based setup now is that for every activity that you conduct, you would keep track of that, and also all the records that are associated with that activity will be in one place. You witnessed smoke control testing. There was a test protocol that was developed maybe by you, maybe by someone else, and you, at the end of that activity, everyone signed off on that on that activity, on the testing. And where does that document go? Well, here's the perfect place for it. Just open this activity and link the document to this activity. Okay. If there are any issues that you've uncovered during the smoke control testing, well, maybe that activity that issue should be created and linked to that activity, so that when you are looking at the issues log, and your issues log by the end of the project can be 20 pages long, but there is always an identifier for every issue, what activity this issue was related to. And the way we do it in Facility Grid, when you create an activity or a task, you always provide an abbreviation for the task. When you start using it just out of the box, Facility Grid will give you a standard setup of tasks and standard abbreviations. For example, for equipment submittals, the abbreviations would be ES. Okay, so when you create a new activity for, let's say, for equipment submittals, let's say you're reviewing pumps, so the first activity is ES-1. So if you were to document your comments in Facility Grid, your comments will have abbreviation ES-1 for this particular activity. So therefore, when you're looking at that, like I said, long issues log, right, you want to only see all the issues related to the activity. You can always use the filter to filter out only the items that you're specifically looking at. Okay, now, as you are looking at this equipment submittals right now on my screen, this is also really nice feature. How many times when you get into the equipment submittal review process and there is a question between the contractors, between the commissioning provider and the design team, okay, how many submittals are you supposed to be reviewing? What version of the submittal are you reviewing? Are you reviewing the initial one, or the one that's going to be approved or rejected? Or who do the comments go to? Or are you reviewing every equipment submittal, or maybe just submittals of the equipment that gets commissioned? But what are you actually commissioning? So to eliminate any of these questions and to make the process as straightforward as possible, well, you as a commissioning provider who's setting up the project, you should know what you plan on reviewing the submittals for. So as you set up your project, just create these placeholders. Okay, so what you're going to accomplish with that is, first of all, there's no more questions. Everybody can log into this task and see, okay, everybody knows which submittals you're reviewing. Number two, all your issues that you generate, or your comments related to these activities, will be in one location. So you know all your comments related to pumps, to the submittal of pumps, right there. They're here. So if I go into this task, so here's the issues log, and the issues log for this particular equipment submittal will provide all the issues, right? So you can see that the tag of this issue corresponds to the tag of the activity, right? ES-1. Now, also, as you're reviewing this document, okay, that submittal, you can bring it and link it to the task as well. So now in one place, you have the document, your comments, and the status. So if I cancel out of this, now you, as you perform this activity, you said, okay, so it's completed. So now I can look at this list and say, okay, so out of this 17 submittals that you're supposed to review, 2 of them have been completed. Okay, so there's no more questions. Everybody knows what you still need to be reviewing and what's what you has already been done. Okay, so as you can see, that the activities that you can document in Facility Grid can be pretty much anything. Like I said, and like Greg has mentioned in the beginning, so again, this could be just typical commissioning activities. This could be any QC activities, and like factory testing, or like I said, high pipe testing, or any pressure testing, or pretty much anything. Okay, so all those activities can reside in one place in Facility Grid, in these tasks, and all the documents, all the test scripts, all the issues would be in one place. Okay, but what I also want to say that it is clear, I think, hopefully from my presentation, that if you're a commissioning provider, you can see the benefit for you to have everything in one place. If you are a building owner and you setting up projects, so let's say if you own Facility Grid license, like some of our clients do, some of our clients are building owners, and they set up projects specific to their requirements, and then every commissioning provider that works for them, like third-party commissioning companies, they follow the structure, right? So if I am a large portfolio owner of buildings, let's say I'm a big data center company, or I'm a university, and I have tons of different buildings, right? Maybe across the campus, across the country, across the globe, right? And I have different commissioning providers. Maybe I have some small projects that are done by my internal personnel. So I can build my project structure specific to how I, as a client, want my commissioning providers to do the tasks, right? I want the structure for new building commissioning to include 5 phases: pre-design, design, construction, acceptance, post-occupancy. I want every pre-design phase to include certain activities. Every design phase includes certain activities. So I can come up with this structure. I can standardize it in Facility Grid, and then every commissioning company that will be performing services for me, they'll know what can be done. But it's not only stopping at the CXP and the building owner. Every participant, including every contractor, can benefit. As an example, a controls contractor. Okay, a lot of times on projects, as you get towards the end of the construction process and you get ready for acceptance testing, things are not ready. And a lot of times controls contractors are blamed because they haven't finished programming, things are not set up, graphics not ready, and so on and so forth. Is it always fault of controls companies that things are not ready? Of course not. Maybe it's most of the time not their fault. Why? Because there's so many activities that precede things that can be done or have to be done by the controls contractor. Well, so controls contractors can use Facility Grid to actually manage those activities that precede, let's say, point-to-point verification. So, for example, to perform point-to-point verification, well, the devices have to be installed, right? They have to be wired. Maybe testing and balancing needs to be completed. So you can see, and that's how exactly Facility Grid is being used by our clients who, for example, controls companies. They can set up the projects in Facility Grid to identify every activity preceding their activities, and then they can keep track of that. And then the benefit, they can go to the overview page, and on the overview page, we have a functionality that provides you with status and with tracking of status. And at any point of time, you come to this page and you can see for every activity what is the status, whether it's in progress, whether it's completed, whether it hasn't been started. If it has been started, how many activities or subtasks have been performed, and what the percentage is. And just to conclude, and I know I'm running a little bit over time, I apologize for that. I need 2 more minutes just to summarize it and say that hopefully you've through the presentation you've realized the capabilities of the software in terms of tailoring tasks and phases specific to your projects, big, small, new building commissioning, existing building commissioning, whatever QA, QC scope is. Also the benefit is to be able to, like I said, perform CA type of activities. We have a really nice functionality within Facility Grid, as Greg has mentioned, to integrate PDF markups into our commissioning issues logs and site observation reports, basically where we take any third-party PDF markup tools and manage the transfer of issues into the issues log. But the biggest benefit that you get out of managing the tasks and activities in Facility Grid, right, is that at the end of the project, as you performed all those activities, as you managed, as you document everything, as you brought those documents, link them, as you document all your issues, link them to tasks, to assets, to tests, all of that now is set up for you to then develop any type of report. So now your client can understand exactly what would be coming to them in terms of a final commission report or a systems manual, because if you think of a systems manual or a final commissioning report, it's pretty much taking whatever activities or whatever task that you perform through commissioning process and then aggregating them into that final document. So when the client is telling you as a commissioning provider that, okay, the commissioning report needs to include certain sections, or they may just simply say refer to ASHA guideline 0 or lead requirements, or for a systems manual refer to ASHA guideline 1.4. Okay, Facility Grid gives you that structure to develop those reports very easily. Okay, and all you need to do is to then take your report sections and link them to the tasks, to the activities. Okay, and so basically you can see that in Facility Grid, let's say if you want to put a systems manual together, we give you a nice structure. This is again, like I said, out per guideline 1.4, and it is fully adjustable, editable. You can move sections around and so on and so forth. But again, all you now need to do is now take every or any section, spec section or report section, and link a task to that section. And when you do it, Facility Grid will automatically grab all the information associated with those tasks and will build the report for you. Great. So this completes the presentation portion of the webinar, and now we should open up for any questions.
All right, Alex, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Great job. The first question is, and I thought it would be good, does Facility Grid allow managers to assign these tasks directly to team members?
So what happens is in Facility Grid, you have 2 types of project participants, right? So project participants are just how do I want to say it? So you have responsibilities, right? Which are, let's say, 6P or building owner or design engineer or mechanical contractor or general contractor. And then, so these are responsibilities. And then you have a different level. You have actual project participants, actual people that are assigned those responsibilities. Okay, so when you are creating an issue, for example, in facility grid, okay, you can assign that issue to a particular responsibility. Let's say it's assigned to a testing and balancing contractor. Okay, so then whoever you bring into facility grid as a participant with the role of a testing and balancing contractor, that person or several people will get that responsibility. Okay, but with the task process, it's set up a little bit differently, because you don't really assign a task to a particular responsibility, or what you do is, the way you would manage that, you would create a task specific for that responsibility. So the way you would do it, for example, you have startup testing. Okay, so you can create a task and call it startup testing, and then your subtasks can be electrical startup for electrical piece of equipment, or you can, instead of creating one task startup and creating different subtasks, you can actually create tasks specific to a discipline. You can create the task that would say electrical startups, and then as subtasks would be all your electrical equipment. And similarly, you can apply it to every type of testing. Let's say if you're doing some static testing, right? You can say, here are my all electrical tests, here's my mechanical tests, and that's how you would arrange it, based on those different responsibilities.
Okay, Alex, thank you. Another question. Can you customize pre-checklists that we can assign to controls contractor so we can see they are complete before we start our testing?
Excellent question. We have a specific video actually on YouTube dedicated specific to that. This is one of my favorite topics, and if I actually start answering it, I'll be half an hour. But I'll do a very quick response. Pre-testing, and you probably know, some of you know that my background is in commissioning and in design and in construction administration, and so I understand that the biggest problem that happens with tests, when the commissioning provider shows up at the job site to start testing and things are not ready, happens all the time. Who gets blamed for it? 99% of the time, controls contractor. Is it deserved? Yes. 99% of the time, no. 50% maybe less, maybe more. But so as everyone else in the chain could be blamed for that as well. Commissioning provider could be the one to be blamed. Maybe they didn't get the latest RFI or equipment submittal, control submittal, and they didn't update their testing procedures. Design team, well, when they put together the design, the sequence operation for a particular piece of equipment, they just copied it from a previous project without even reading or understanding the nuances of a specific project, and then that got carried over into submittals. But then the programmer who actually programmed controls knew what he was doing or she was doing, and they programmed it correctly. Anyway, to make the long story short, things don't necessarily go all the time as planned, and then what happens is, again, you show up at the job site and things are not ready, or they're not working the way they're supposed to be working. So facility grid has a functionality of pre-verification testing. And what we do with our pre-verification testing is, when you create a functional test in facility grid, okay, facility grid automatically creates an identical copy of the test, and that test has different permissions. As facility grid is a permission-based software, to access a functional test, you need to have, or not to access, to respond to functional performance test questions, you have to have responsibility of the CTXA. When we create a copy as a pre-verification test, that test, the same exact test, has a different permissions. You can actually, that test can be accessed by any project participant and can be responded to. Okay, so again, as you create FPTs, we create these PVTs for you. Okay, and then so anyone and typically it will be controls contractor, can open the same test in a different mode, in a PVT mode, and provide their responses. Okay, so as let's say controls contractor going through the testing procedure, they would be responding similar to how the commissioning engineer would be doing, just providing pass fail responses, inserting notes. But the benefit that's being that you get out of this is applies to everyone. First of all, it benefits the contractor who pre-tested it, because when the contractor looks at the sequence, and if the sequence does not match, or the script doesn't match what has been programmed, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's programmed incorrectly. It may be that the test procedure is for some reason not correct. And so what Facility Grid does is it incorporates responses from pre-verification testing into your functional testing. So if I'm a commissioning professional and I'm ready to go to the job site, I can open this FPT, and the responses from pre-verification test will be embedded here. And so I'll be able to say, okay, so I know that this contractor pre-tested this test on this date, and it passed. This particular question was passed. But what's the most important thing you get out of this is when you get a fail response. If you get a fail response, it means that somebody actually looked at this and it didn't work. And hopefully somebody provided you a comment of what didn't work. So in this case, the comment that the sequence is not correct. And so what you get out of this is that the team is able to address this before going to the site. Maybe contractor misunderstood the control sequence. Maybe the commissioning engineer didn't get that latest RFI. Maybe the sequence operation was incorrect from the beginning, or there could be so many other items. And again, I know it's a long answer, but the idea is that you have an opportunity to pre-test things, to get issues addressed or resolved, or not issues, maybe opportunities. But most importantly, if I'm a contractor and if I pre-tested this and I marked this and I said, okay, well, some of the things don't work correctly. Well, this test is not going to show up as a failed test, because if I go to the site and I make this finding as if I'm doing the test, I'm going to have to mark it as failed. So, and like I said, again, as far as I'm concerned, it primarily benefits contractors to pre-test. And again, you wouldn't be necessarily pre-testing every piece of equipment. You probably would just look at the major equipment and just pre-test one piece of every major equipment, because typically the sequence operation would be similar. But if you do that, so then again, to me, the primary beneficiary of this is the contractor, and as the contractor benefits, then obviously every other participant will benefit as well. Again, sorry for the long answer.
Okay, Alex, thank you. Next question. As subtasks are created, it sounds as if you are assigning these to trade contractors and you don't have the ability to assign specific commissioning employees of one company. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. It is correct. I don't want to assign a specific employer, a specific employee, and the reason is because that employee may be not the right person to address that particular item. That person can no longer be with the company. I always work on the high level. I always work on the responsibility level. Okay, and because I can't really assign a particular task, let's to say, okay, so startup that has to be done by this company. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's mechanic contractor will be doing that. Maybe mechanic contractor will bring a factory technician, and that factory technician will be doing that activity. And so what happens is, if I just manage the tasks and I name the tasks and I make them, lay them out such that they easily can be managed by a particular trade, that's kind of how I would approach it and set it up.
Okay, great. Okay, That was the last question. So again, thank you very much. I hope you found this productive. If you have any ideas for webinars that you would like us to present, or if you'd like to participate in one of them, please email Greg at facilitygrid.com. We've got webinars coming up, as I said before, every Tuesday, Thursday at 2, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you're interested, email Greg at facilitygrid.com for deep dive webinars into Facility Grid. Everybody be well and stay safe, and thank you very much.